This is Matt for Into Boxing. I'm delighted to be joined by the Leeds warrior, Josh Warrington. Josh, I've witnessed some very good sparring here tonight. How are you feeling getting back into camp?
I feel good. It's nice to get the sparring. I'll start sparring. I've done bits and bats obviously since boxing in the ladder. I always like to keep myself in the gym, help out with the lads with fights coming up. It's a chance for myself to work on different things and practice my defence, practice some shots. But obviously, things that are specifics for Kiko, we'll always work on. Say for instance, if I'm sparring a taller fighter. So tonight was the first time where I could have someone with similar stature to Kiko and kind of similar fighting style as well. So it's nice to brush the dust off, especially when you've been practicing on the pads and the bags. You've done your runs, you've started your circuits and all that. You get to the stage where you want to start sparring, and that's as real as the closer you're going to get to a fight, but it's still a million miles away, but it's still a chance to really practice what you want to do.
Absolutely. You mentioned Kiko Martinez. I think the last time we spoke, it was just before Maurizio Lara, and you were we mentioned the IBF title at the time, and you weren't dismissive, but you were almost saying, look, I've done the scene round here. I want to go to America. I want to do a show over there, maybe Navarrete, etc., etc. So why now? Why Kiko Martinez?
Great question, and you're right. I was probably on camera saying them words, but after the Lara fight, even if I'd have blasted Lara out of there and got the W against my name, I'd have still kind of been in the same position, because alright, I've taken care of business that, I've avenged my loss, but who wants to fight me? Who wants to fight me at the top of the world? And trying to get a Navarrete fight, trying to get a Leigh Santa Cruz fight, trying to get Gary Russell Jr., although it's not Gary Russell Jr. who's a WBC champ no more. It's proven very difficult, especially when you haven't got something to
bargain with.
Yeah, I was just going to say a bargaining tool, and all right, we've got a fan base, but the world champions don't want to come over here and defend the belt in someone else's backyard. They want you to go over there, rightly so. And I'm willing to do that, but it's like, do we really need Josh Warrington? Yeah, he'd do alright for his profile, but he's just coming off a knockout loss. Now we can leave him. But if I've got a world title, then, like I say, it's a massive bargaining tool. And the opportunity came up. Kiko wanted the fight against me. This is not something that Aaron's gone, right, what you should do is you should defend Kiko. He's gone, I want to fight Josh Warrington. So opportunities come for me there, and it's one we've taken.
Now, it's a different Kiko maybe from many years ago. I think every time I've seen Kiko fight the past 2 years, everyone's been like, oh, Father Time and this, that and the other, but he pulled it out of the bag against Kid Galahad, and he's proved one thing that hasn't left is that power. Is that what you've got to be wary of in this fight? You've got to keep switched on to that for a full 12 rounds or however long the fight goes.
Yeah, they always say the last thing to go in a fighter is his punch. I think that's those who could have a do back in the day, still go to the pub, 50-odd-year-old, 60-odd-year-old, they can still dig. Because like I say, the last thing to go is the punch, and his timing might not be the same. Fitness may not be the same, but he's still got that dangerous punch, and he's always been a fit fighter anyway. So yeah, I've got to be wary of them punches. I've got to be wary. You can't switch off for a split second. But I'm aware that if ever I've learnt my lesson, it was last year against Maurizio Lara in the first time. I switched off just walking to the ring. I switched off in the first round, and I paid price for that. Got knocked out. I've been over all ground with Kiko. I know what he brings. He brings a ferocious pace, and he brings it for 12 rounds. And it's one of them where he lets you know about it if you do switch off. So yeah, I know I've got to be 36 minutes fully focused, but at the same time, I realise what comes at the end of it. It's a lovely shiny belt.
we mentioned the belt. What would it mean to you to become a two-time world champion? Not only just two-time world champion, but this is a belt you've never lost in the ring. People forget that. So what would that mean to you to get that belt back around your waist or shoulder?
It'd be an interesting boy. Listen, I've already got it in my head the way that reacts. I'll be right fucking knobhead when I pick it up again. Honestly, be just slagging off anybody and everybody, because I feel that
I'll be about for that.
I just feel that everyone's kind of just dismayed me. You know, I won the belt and I defended it against the country's best, and I was hungry to go fight the world's best. Arguably, I did do in Carl Compton, he ranks number 2 behind Will Santa Cruz, and I was desperate for them fights. And it's not, I wasn't asking for steady defences, I was just asking for big fights. I defended against Carl Frampton, Keith Gallagher, this country's best, the best in the world over here. The rest of them were over there, and I was desperate for Shakur Stevenson, I was desperate for Gary Russell, I was desperate for Will Santa Cruz, desperate for Oscar Valdez. Couldn't come off. And then obviously I had a bit of a slip, but like you say, I never lost the belt in the ring, so just a case of, am I just where I was originally? Yeah. And then fucking hell, I got beaten, I went down to ranking number 8 in like box rankings and other rankings. Like, wow, you've really fallen off like that? You've won by night office in 11 years, 12 years, and you get forgot about, so yeah, it'd be a bit of a reaction when I do business.
You mentioned there, obviously, the Lara incident and the first fight. So we won't go over that again. I think we well established that wasn't particularly you in there, and he obviously was very good that night also. But in that second fight as well, at the end of it, is there a bit like, obviously, a bit of unfinished business there? Have you ever got that in your back of your mind where, no matter what happens, would you ever want to run that back with him, just so you can say, you know what, we've done that, or is this just a greater feat to do, going for the world title?
Again, I had this, not argument, I just had this, I had to explain this to somebody, because they were saying, why are you going for Lara again? And I said, of course I'd love to put that to bed. My manager and Eddie says, just leave it, you've done it, you've put it to bed, but in my fucking in my head I am, because I don't have a W against his name, and I'd love to put a W against his name, because fucking hell, I've beaten everybody, so he's the only man who I've not beat. I've got lost and a draw against him, a win would be fucking perfect, but yeah, I'd love to do that, but once I've done that, then where do I go from there? But if I have a belt, I've still got a bargaining tool in the back pocket. Maybe I could entice him, later down the line, so we'll see.
Boxing has a funny way of working itself out. Obviously, I was in the dressing room after the Lara fight, and you could tell you were more frustrated, because you could tell and however long that fight went, that you were almost back in the rhythm, fully energised. There weren't like the Warrington who was behind closed doors, was sort of, you came into the ring and it was like, it wasn't, you weren't buzzed for that fight. Obviously that ring entrance, like I told you before, anyone would have been buzzed walking out to that, but you've now got this opportunity at a world title, and what looks like the natural progression will be the winner of that goes and fights the winner of Leigh Wood and Michael Conlan. So what's your opinion on that fight? They've obviously got what looks like a 50-50 fight in many people's eyes in Nottingham. How do you see that fight?
I think it's a brilliant fight, and yeah, it's exciting. I think Leigh Wood's a prime example of, don't write fighters off. I guess because we don't have week in, week out like a football team or a tennis player gets every other month to come back to competition. We have voids, massive voids in between, and people go for the last fight, don't they? And you could be finished. Leigh Wood got beat by Jazza. Now he's got this massive fight against Mick Conlan. He's done well with his fight against Zhu, and now his chance against Conlan. I'm just pipping him. I might change my mind, because I'm just pipping Wood. I feel like the run of form that he's in, like he's soaking everything up at the minute with no trainer Ben Davidson. I feel that Conlan is a phenomenal boxer in the way that he moves. I just feel that at times he gets drawn into fights, and I think if they do go toe to toe with 8-ounce gloves on, then I'd probably pick Wood in terms of the puncher. So yeah, I think it'll be a good fight, but I'll probably just simply Wood.
Now, I was at that press conference, so I've obviously asked these guys the same sort of questions and how it links into your fight, etc. Now, I asked Michael Conlan, and I can't remember who he said would win the fight, but he said they're pulling for you to win the fight. Obviously, because it's technically, it'd be a big fight. You've obviously got your fans, his fans, you could probably do Ellen Road, Headingley, Belfast, but is there a sense for you that you may want him to do that because he could unlock that trip to the States that you want with Madison Square Garden potentially? Is that something in the back of your mind where you're going, you know what, the stars could align here, I didn't get what I wanted against Lara, I get my belt back, and now I get a trip to New York? Is that sort of, do you think that far ahead?
Yeah, listen, I'd be a liar to say that it's not picked my mind, of course. Of course I thought about it, but at the same time I thought about taking a big army down to Nottingham as well and having one in the stadium. Leeds, Nottingham, Brighton Clough, back, that's exciting. But yeah, listen, me Conlan, I've heard him mention my name a fair few times over the years, and obviously he did business down at Super Bantam, and he has mentioned my name certainly more than once before. But yeah, I always thought that if I go to the States I'd be fighting someone from the States or Mexico, but Madison Square Garden's got big
St. Paddy's
up there, yeah. Katie Taylor on there as well. It'd be a massive show, so that'd be lovely. Listen, I think more than anything I'd be just interested in the belt, to have two belts. After getting knocked out by Lara, I thought I pissed it in wind, fucking unifying the division and Ring Magazine belts, because that's all I wanted. I was so fucking close to having that, fight with Kanju in the stadium at the start of 2020. And when you look back at it, fucking hell, it would have been quite a steady fight for the Ring Magazine belt. And people can win multiple titles, but to have one of them, it's only the fucking creme de la creme, best fighting the best, and I'd love to have won that. And I thought I'd pissed it in wind when I got knocked out by Lara, but all of a sudden, and that's why a status I put out a few weeks ago on Instagram, it's funny how this sport works, it's come back round in full circle, and then, I don't want to look too far down the line, but if I do the business against Kiko, then go on and fucking win a belt against there, all of a sudden I'm back into contention of fighting for it again. So
I have to say, the only reason I've mentioned Mick Conlan, so it's not to say from my point of view that I think he's favourite, it's because he's mentioned your name in the past to me, and I honestly think that fight's a brilliant fight. And when you look at it as well, like you've just mentioned, if Leigh Wood does the business and you win your fight, bloody hell, like domestically, that's a sellout at either ground. So it's such a big fight. Right, what happens on that night? Kiko Martinez, you're going to run it back. Do you believe that you'll be able to put a dent in him enough to stop him in his tracks and get a knockout in this fight?
100%. And I ended up getting little niggles in the first fight. And I'm still in a bit of a transition of taking what I can do in here to fight night, because I guess I was on the road of chasing Leigh Silver down, chasing the world title down, so it wasn't a case of winning the fights, too much in style. It was a case of just win the fight, don't matter how we do it. And I think maybe I might have been a bit more disciplined to just stick to a game plan. I hurt my hand early in one of I think third or fourth round, and I had to box. And box I did, but I wasn't really sitting on the punches, and he just kept on coming. This time round, it's 5 years down the line, I think I've shown that I've got a bit of oomph behind my punches, and I think if I sit down on one of the big ones, then it'll be another finish.
We mentioned power. I think Carl Frampton said you hit extremely hard for someone who's not got double figures in high double figure knockouts on the record, etc. Just before you go, right, tell us what it means to be fighting in front of this Leeds crowd. First direct arena, I know it's special for you. I've been there at many of the fights there. You got your Leeds shirt on, although they didn't do the business at the weekend. Talk to me about what it means to fight in front of them, that army of fans that you've got.
I run out of words to say about them, because it's just unbelievable the support I have. It's fucking one of them things where
you have to pinch yourself.
I do, mate. I'll be one of them where it'll go with me till the day I die. You know what I mean? Because look at last time. I've come off a knockout loss. The knockout loss, I've been fucking knocked out behind closed doors, and I've come back to 18,000 people screaming and shouting. I mean, they had Katie Taylor on the card, they had Conor Benn there, but everyone really came out with the droves for myself. And it's like, fucking hell, what have I really done to deserve that? I mean, I wear City like proud on my sleeve and stuff, but the support is unreal, and just keep on turning out in the numbers to be there. And it's like, if I do the business on the 26th, it's not winning it just for myself, it's doing it for them as well. I talk about taking them on holiday to the States, and people become obsessed with it because I've talked about it for a long time. And basically, a lot of my pals are boxing fans, and when they've seen likes of Ricky Hatton going over there and Joe Calzaghe and all that back in the day, it's like, we can do it with Josh. And we've seen him fighting in fucking leisure centres, we've seen him fighting in town hall, arenas, stadiums. We followed him from the start when everyone wrote him off because they said he's just a ticket seller or he can't punch. And we backed him. Now we're going to see his headline in fucking Madison Square Gardens or in Vegas, and that's why I want to give them, for them to say thank you. And they can say, hey, my pal Josh Warrington, he fucking fought in States, and we backed him when he was shit. Do you know what I mean? So it's those who turn out for me, I can't thank them enough. And I was only there over there doing some promo stuff, just singles, mate, just because I know what it's going to be like. And if you come in, bring the noise and I'll do the business in the ring.
I have to say, if you've never seen Josh Warrington fight, just watch his entrance for his last fight, the rematch against Maurizio Lara. It'll just give you a bit of a feel as to what it's all about. It's a special kind of atmosphere. Look, Josh, you've been good with your time. Thanks for talking to Into Boxing, and we'll look forward to fight week. It's going to be a huge fight, and yeah, good luck for it, bud.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.